Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, or good evening. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Friday Morning at the Fun House with Martin Popoff. Good morning, my friend.
Yes,
You seeing the clouds and the fog and the rain and snow from yesterday, your neck of the woods?
Yeah, we got exactly that here in Toronto. It's pretty mellow though compared to 2 days ago. I drove to Kitchener and saw the Rolling Stones Unzipped display, and that was like mud and snow and rain and sleet, big trucks all up and down the highways. But it was worthwhile. It was basically a show just like the David Bowie one that they had here in Toronto, but they put it in a small town for some reason, Kitchener, and it was all the guitars and drum sets and handwritten lyrics and album cover art, original photos, and they even built up a whole studio thing, and they even built up the flat that they all lived in, with like the French fries and dishes in the sink and all this stuff. It was really, really super well done. But that's what I drove off to see the other day. There's been a Pink Floyd one like this as well, right? Which I haven't seen, but no, it was well worth it. It's called Unzipped.
That sounds like fun. I would
Yeah.
enjoy that. Although I wouldn't enjoy driving through that mess, because is there nothing worse? I mean, you brought it up before, than driving in shitty weather like that, and there are trucks in the right or left hand lane with all that snow and ice and flying all over the place. No matter, and especially if you I mean, I don't have a small car anymore, but I remember when I used to, I would hate passing a truck in weather like that, because that stuff is just flying all over the place, hitting your windshield. And cool. That sounds like fun. And everybody watching, tune in next week for next week's weather forecast. So today we are going to talk about, we're going back to album covers. All right. So we haven't revisited the album cover theme in a while. And a lot of people have asked, because I've talked about Roger Dean album cover art and Rodney Matthews. Well, the kind of the granddaddy of album cover art and rock and roll is Hipgnosis. So we're going to spend the next two episodes talking about some of our favorite Hipgnosis covers. And there's a lot of good ones. And it's amazing when you go and look at like the full list. So many albums that you have loved throughout the decades were done by Hipgnosis, as we'll start talking about today. So with that being said, I'll have Martin kick us off with his first selection of the day.
Okay. Well, in honor of this, I broke out my Pink Floyd Animals cup. So
Beautiful.
There you go. But my first selection is Black Sabbath Technical Ecstasy. Always loved this album cover. Here's a better picture this is a book that I did of hard rock and heavy metal album cover art, and Johannes did all the photo stuff in it, did a cool introduction. We got a bit of him in there, so fade to black with a rubber cover, but so everything was just a picture like that and kind of a cool explanation of what's going on. But always loved this album cover. The idea of technical ecstasy, I remember talking to Geezer. It's like, his interpretation, and I suppose Hipgnosis's was, that's two robots having sex on the cover there. Really kind of cool and austere. It's neat not having a band shot. The back cover was like that. Love the colors of it. You've got, on the inner sleeves, Hipgnosis got into this sort of diagrammatical thing. They did it on Never Say Die as well, but I thought that was really cool with the inner sleeve showing, the building of these robots. But yeah, I just thought it was a really kind of cool and craftworky, almost technical look to this. I love just the same size in Helvetica, or close to Helvetica, just the black ink, Black Sabbath Technical Ecstasy. So there you go. Yeah, neat illustration, and just a really cool artsy image for Sabbath, who, they had some great album covers and some not great album covers up to then. And this is the first time they used Hipgnosis, I believe. So very cool.
Yeah. I always liked that album cover art. I don't know if I ever liked it as a Black Sabbath album cover. Right? It's just too white and bright, and but it is kind of interesting. I mean, the two robots, and I always thought that's like an escalator. I think that they're kind of like
one's going one way, one's going the other. So it's communication. I think Geezer said, "Oh, they're having sex or whatever," and it is called technical ecstasy. But really, I mean, you could just say they're sort of communicating. One going one way, one's the roundish female kind of idea, and one's more of the squared off boxy male idea, I suppose.
Yeah, it's actually pretty clever from a creation standpoint.
Yeah. You're right, though. A lot of people really don't like that album cover, and I think they don't like it because they don't like it applied to a Sabbath album.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was always my issue. It just that neat idea. As a Sabbath album cover, I don't know, and it doesn't really match up with the music, I don't think. But I think as we're going to see a lot of these album covers, some of these just really don't match up with the music that's contained in the album. Some do, but not all. But anyway, all right. My next choice, I had two that I was considering for this band, and I ultimately decided to go with this one. I don't think I like this one as much as I used to when I was a kid, because when I was a kid, this was one of the greatest album covers in the world to me. I still really like it a lot. I have it on a shirt, Rainbow Straight Between the Eyes.
Okay.
Right. I mean, because, Rainbow, led by Richie Blackmore, he plays a Stratocaster. This is a pretty, this is a pretty hard rocking album. So here comes the Stratocaster headstock through the middle of the forehead, through the eyes, straight between the eyes. It made for a pretty compelling, I saw them live on this tour, and they had the big eyes up on the stage and everything like that. And I bought the t-shirt in the parking lot before the show or at the merch table, whatever. And I wore it proudly for many, many years till it fell apart, like in the beginning of the 90s. And of course, I had to go rebuy it like 10 years ago or so. So I still do own the shirt, but I just think it's cool. And again, this was early 80s. This was a time where we were getting lots of these kind of cool album covers, especially on the Polydor label, where, almost, I remember Uriah Heep's Abominog also was pretty striking. And you had the Scorpions Blackout, right? All these, really kind of like in your face type of album cover design. So yeah, Straight Between the Eyes, my first one for today.
Yeah, pretty heavy. It's almost like, they're like, paying tribute a little bit to the rise of metal with the new wave British heavy metal with that album cover. And that's one where I don't think the type works as well as on Technical Ecstasy, because it's the same thing, right? It's the same, just black ink, top, bottom kind of thing. And I think they could have snazzed that up a little for that one.
Well, I would have loved the older Rainbow logo.
Yeah, of course.
Much better. Yeah. I mean, because I absolutely agree with you. I think just this blocky black letters is like, it kind of like, compared to the rest of the album cover, it's almost like it doesn't do it justice. Like it deserved more than that. But we don't make those decisions, unfortunately.
Yeah. So. All right. So my next one is UK Danger Money. I've always liked this album cover. I mean, the first UK album cover is okay. It's not great. The live album is not good at all. What is it called? Night After? Yeah, Night After Night. I just stuck it up on my wall when another one fell down. And the back has got, typical kind of cool Hypnosis type styles and the way they put that together. But I like the way that there's sort of a narrative there. It reminds me a little bit of what they did with Golden Earring to the Hilt. Where you feel there's a story going on here. There's a watch and some jewelry over there, and he's washing his hands. You figure he's washing blood off of his hands, right? It's called Danger Money, right? So it's like he's absolving himself or cleaning himself after committing some sort of a crime. But yeah, just a really cool artsy looking, mysterious album cover. There you go.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. I will also agree that the first album cover isn't great. I mean, you got like images of each guy in the band that you could barely make out.
Yeah,
it's mysterious.
Very obscure. Yeah.
All right, my next one. Gotta talk about Pink Floyd on this episode, right? And I think one of my favorites from Hipgnosis, working with the band, is Omagoma. Just because you've got, this whole like kind of window mirror thing where each image then is displayed, goes on for infinity, which is kind of pretty cool. And I remember, I think like the first couple of years I had this, I never really looked at it close enough. And then one day, that one fateful day where all of a sudden everything kind of comes to light and you're like, oh, look at that. That is pretty clever. And it actually is. So there's like a million images of these guys sitting here all the way through, and then you got the kind of the cool photography on the inside and everything of the guys in the band. But yeah, I mean, we got a couple really good Pink Floyd album covers, but this is definitely my favorite. And and this also kind of signals like the new lineup post Syd Barrett too. Like here they are, and we're gonna continue to be weird. Here's another weird album cover.
Yeah.
There you go.
And when they started out, they used a little more straight photography like that, a little more conservative, in using the guys a little more, you know. And yeah, I mean, we should mention this is Storm Thorgerson and Aubrey Powell are the two main guys. And later on, they kind of break up, but they still kind of keep working on things. But Storm and Poe, they call them, right, are the two main hypnosis guys. And this is a very UK thing, right? They're based in the UK. I mean, we had Pacific Pioneer with Ernie Cephalou over in California. But no, this was something where when these bands went to the UK, and I've talked to a few of them who have said this, if you were not from the UK and you went there, that was one of the things you did if you were recording there. Sammy Hagar comes to mind. You go there, you record in London if you're recording in London, and then you visit the Hipgnosis offices and try to sort out what they want to do for your album cover art. And same with if you were actually a UK band, you would go over there and you'd sit down and you know, as Peter Gabriel says, I'll mention him as we go along here, but as Peter Gabriel says, you would go in there and the first thing they would do is try to fob off their old ideas on you. He said they'd pull out a drawer of this stuff and depending on how pig-headed you are about everything and you know, putting your foot down, they'd try sell you on some ideas that didn't go for other bands yet, and then you know, talk them into doing something new for you or whatever. So
well, I mean, that's the whole difficult to cure thing, right? I mean, that was originally pitched to Sabbath and they didn't want it, so they're like, oh, here we go, Richie. You know, it's like, well,
yeah, exactly, yeah. All right, my next one is UFO Obsession, and there's my fully signed Obsession that I pulled off the wall, and now I'm just going to put back in the racks. But this is Michael with the old "Why am I the only one without any balls" thing. You know, this is kind of related. It's got the blue feel of Lights Out, which was filmed at the Battersea Station, right? I think inside, but this is actually filmed where they were recording in Los Angeles. They recorded in a postal, a disused postal outlet thing in Los Angeles with Ron Nevison. And this is, I think, a local hospital or something. But yeah, really cool design, really striking Hipgnosis design, and the great logo with the Obsession written all around it. And that's just a really cool, you know, perfect. It's right in line with Lights Out and Hawkwind Cork's Strangeness and Charm. That whole interior, you know, they love the valves and the, you know, force it as well. I suppose they love that whole industrial feel.
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
it's a good one.
It's a very cool cover, right? And I have a shirt of that. And I remember one day I was wearing the shirt, and my wife looks at the shirt and she goes, "What the hell is that supposed to be? Why do those guys have these little balls in their mouths?" And I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's a Hipgnosis album cover. You're not supposed to know, right?
It looks amazing though, right? It's
Yeah,
probably the best
I've always liked
album cover.
Yeah, I like the Lights Out cover too as well. Yeah. So speaking of valves and futuristic things, this to me, this one here is kind of like the second cousin to Technical Ecstasy, sort of, and also very similar to the Hawkwind album, I, Robot by Alan Parsons Project. Yeah. So let me kind of hold that. So there's the whole thing right there. And, you know, this to me is a perfect example of where the album cover completely fits the album itself, fits the music. I mean, it's almost like Alan had a discussion with them. It's like, here's what the album is all about. It's a concept album. What can you give me? And they gave them exactly what the album is about here, with this whole like kind of controlling, you know, the whole AI thing, right? I mean, we're living it today, right? So this, I think, is really, really successful, and it's just beautiful looking as well. Yeah. So, and it's a great album too. So
that's the thing. A lot of their great album covers are beautiful looking, and you can tell they were a lot of work, and they just got this kind of cool, austere design sense to them, right? Okay, so next I'll go with I mentioned him earlier, Peter Gabriel. The Face Melt. So this is the third album cover, right? And you know, they're all called Peter Gabriel, and the other ones are okay. They're not great. I mean, but I really always thought this one was really cool, really artistic. These lines in behind him are actually the steps leading up to the Hipgnosis office. Aubrey and Storm said they thought the background wasn't interesting enough. So they, you know, I read, I'll show you this in a sec, but they said they put in like some shoes or something up here. It doesn't really look like shoes to me, but so they got him there, and this whole photo technique was kind of you take the photo. It was quite, you know, described in here. This is this is one hypnosis book I have, but it's not actually a hypnosis book. It's 100 best album covers, but kind of written and talked about by Storm and Aubrey. And a bunch of theirs are in here, but they're not all hypnosis, but they do talk about the Peter Gabriel. And it was quite a complicated process of, you know, when the chemicals are down, you take something and scrape away to come up with that. And then you've got Peter on the back like this. And Storm and Aubrey thought that they liked this better, the single version of it. So they liked, not so much the color was a big deal to them, but they liked that you got the contrast of him not, you know, abused, and then the abused version. And there's on the back, you can see the contrast. They've got that in there as well. So, and my funny story, I think I mentioned this before, but I own a poster of this that's made up of 4 huge folded up posters that I think are all 32 feet square. So it's 32. I think it's 32 feet times 4 to come up with this. It just sits in a big folded up, you know, 4 little piles of things. But then if I had a massive wall to put it on, you could put that on a massive wall. And cover. So kind of a cool thing.
So I wonder what that single cover would have looked like if it was in black and white.
Yeah. True. Well, they kind of do that with the front and back, I suppose, if you take the two together. But yeah, I always thought it was a good ghoulish, creepy, like, you know, Intruder and Games of the Frontiers and that. It's really creepy and it matches nicely what's going on.
I always thought so too. Yeah, cool. All right, this album was released, geez, what year did this come out in? 1970 something. I don't remember, 75 maybe, I don't know, whatever. Caravan, Cunning Stunts, which obviously is a play on, we all know what it's a play on. I won't mention it here, but this is a PG show here on Friday morning. But this is pretty cool and very, I mean, this is very English, right? This is, it doesn't get much more English here. And here you've got this guy, obviously at the tailor's, and he's trying on some stuff. But what's interesting is like here, the guy's got this weird orange outfit, which has like holes all over it. But then you look in the mirror and it's the same guy wearing something completely different, no pants. And so it's just like, what is going on there? And then, you know, but in the other mirror here, it's the exact same reflection here. So very, very cool, bizarre. And it's one of those album covers where I think you really have to look at it hard to see all of the things that are going on and catch all the things that are going on. Yeah. And then I also love the back design. I'm a sucker for live concert shots on albums, right? Live album or not. So pretty cool. But here's the one thing. See that logo? Awesome. That should have been on here somewhere. Oh yeah, but whatever. Minor gripe, but a pretty cool album cover. Very, very cool. Quirky and whimsical, just like the band. And I think that's a perfect album cover for them.
Yeah, cool. All right. So my next one is gonna be a little involved. I got a lot of show and tell here for you, but Led Zeppelin Presence with the Object, right? Yeah. Now to explain, well, let me do this first. So I love the Object so much. I went and I've been doing these kind of imagined fake ads. So I did a Presence ad where I've got you know, this ghoulish thing filling the thing with the Object, and then I did this bluish called Flaming, you know, this Imaginos Flaming Telepath book, and because it's about John Dee and the Obsidian Mirror and the Magna of Illusion, the Blue Oyster Cult thing, I thought, well, you know, the Object is sort of like that. So I also did all these illustrations in here, and there's the site of the Cliff House, which is on the cover of the Blue Oyster Cult Imaginos album, burned down and burned to a carbonic. We've got a large object there emerging out of the flames on that. And then I've got these guys over here. This is the Serbian Black Hand people that were involved with the assassination of the Archduke Ferdinand, which is, you know, this is the occult history of World War I, Imaginos. It's a long story, but I've got one of the Black Hand guys holding an object. So this was the sort of terrorist group that Gavril Princip came from, that, you know, as we go on to the thing that started World War I. So I put an object in his hand. And then what I did is, because I'm thinking of like maybe doing more of these fake ads things, I did some sort of paste ups of object stuff here. So I made my own object little photos that I'm going to possibly use as, there's one in a baby's crib. There's one there, girls fighting over it. There's some gal just hanging out, contemplating it. There's some Mongols or something looking at one, ice fishing. Old Texan guy with an American flag looking at it. Some African dude holding one. Some retired couple taking one out for a walk. Some kids playing with one. Got some
At the beach. Hey, why not, right?
Holding one up. The TikTok generation.
Wow.
There's a large one, gal checking on it in some darkened room. There's a guy holding one with a goat. And I actually found a Led Zeppelin picture in an old magazine, a gal in a Led Zeppelin shirt sleeping with one. So there you go. So the idea, and I'm going to scan those and possibly like redraw them and use them in ads or whatever. But the whole idea of the object, you know, and Poe told me all about this, is, you know, it's the it doesn't have any edges, so it's the idea of absence. It's either it's more something that the way he put it was everybody needs the music of Led Zeppelin, and everybody needs an object, a black object. There it is on the back, looking really spooky, right? So it's kind of a power regenerator or a drainer or an inspiration. And then, of course, on the inside, and all these photos are of course, kind of like 1950s shots, right? That they're all put in, right? So, so that's the idea of the object. And of course, they made some, there's a bit of a story. You know, I've got this is now out of print, but I've got this Led Zeppelin book I did where I went through all the songs, right? And you know, the story of this is all kind of in there and in Through the Outdoor, which I'll get to. It's one of my choices, but they made a bunch up and they were going to actually put them out mysteriously, but then the story got leaked, I think in Sounds or something. So they didn't do that. So that's one set of objects. And then I'm not sure if it was the same ones or not, maybe, but there was the promo version of the object, right? Where sent out to press were these, and they weren't very impressive. They didn't look as cool as the real thing, but they sell for like over $1,000 now, right? But there were these promo versions of the object made out of plastic or something that were sent out as well. But the idea is that it is a void, so it's like it doesn't have any edges or whatever. And you know, Aubrey explained to me that there was some sort of Japanese trade fair thing that they were in or whatever, that they built one of these that truly was a void that you reached into. From afar, it looked like a Led Zeppelin object, but it was actually a black hole. And people would reach into it and they'd freak out and they were like super surprised. And so that's kind of the mystery and the mystique of the object. And the last thing I wanted to show is that Tim Derling, we just did a Bad Company's Contrarian episode where he picked, you know, his contrarian choice for favorite Bad Company album, but we were kind of looking at all of them. And he pointed this out, which I thought was pretty cool. Bad Company Desolation Angels has a lot of the feel of the Led Zeppelin presence, but it has voids as well, but the voids are white on this, whereas the void on Presence is a black void. So there you go. Always love that. Love the object, obviously. You know, I love drawing it, using it, various things. It's just the coolest, you know, occult talisman of Jimmy Page there. And I just love the way that it's white and it's the 50s photos. And it's just this really cool, mysterious thing. Actually, let me just show you one more thing. So on the inside of it, you got, where's my inner? Oh, I don't see my inner sleeve in there. What is that? No. So you got I think it was a drawing of it, right? Which is kind of interesting. Yeah, well, the last anecdote I remember is when they first showed it to Jimmy Page, it was straight, and Jimmy thought it was not interesting enough. He thought it was boring, so they went back to the office and put that twist in it. So there you go.
So I've been waiting through all this for you to say, and here is my object.
I don't own one. No, I've never bought one. No, I've never had one. No. I saw a funny thing is, you know, I was watching Pawn Stars, right? The one that those guys do, Rick and whatever, from out of remember when that was a big hit out of Las Vegas, right?
Yeah.
And they had an object on there as one of the things. Rick wanted to own one. I guess he's a big Zeppelin fan, so he went out and bought an object, and they had a big unveiling of it and showing and stuff. But I think it's kind of a little crudely kind of put together. It doesn't look as imposing as the real thing. So
yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it's definitely been one of rock and roll's biggest mystery images, I think, on any album cover. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm sure people, if you're paying attention, you're watching here, you obviously know I gave away one of my picks here with the shirt I'm wearing today. I didn't necessarily do that intentionally, but Wishbone Ash Argus. Okay, let's get the full. Here we go.
Yeah.
So nice. Here you've got this guy. So if you know anything about this album, this is, one of Wishbone Ash's most acclaimed albums, and you've got a selection of songs on here which have to do with warriors and battles and all that sort of thing. So here you've actually got that warrior overlooking like a valley. It's really kind of a very kind of stark and just introspective cover here. And you've got the kind of like the somewhat cloudy sky, you've got the green terrain, couple trees, and this guy that, if you didn't know any better, looks like Darth Vader from Star Wars from the back. And this is, quite a few years before Star Wars, actually. But this, and again, this cover makes you think that this is kind of like, an early hard rock or heavy metal album. And really, it's not at all. Probably predates some cool stuff that we saw that was similar about a decade later in the whole new wave of British heavy metal scene. But I always loved it. And, the more you look at it, the more you're like, well, but we want to see what the guy looks like from the front. Does he look like Darth Vader? Does he not? But it's definitely good. Looks great on a shirt. And I love the fact that it's so simple, I think, is what I really like about it. It's just, here's this guy, here's, and maybe he's going with another group and they're going to invade another, batch of soldiers from a warring country or whatever in the distance, you don't know. But that's what makes album covers like this so cool, is because you're trying to, in your own mind, conjure up, using your own imagination, what this is supposed to be. And, where's this guy going? What's he going to be doing? I think that's the greatness of this album cover. So it's long been one of my favorites from Hipgnosis. And, again, because I love this sort of thing. On the inside, you got the live shots put in there. Makes for a great album overall. Cool album cover art, cool band shots. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think subconsciously, because it's such a great cover, it actually makes people push Argus way to the top of their list of their favorite Wishbone Ash albums. I mean, that happens, I think, if the cover is really cool and it enforces what you're feeling about the music. But like you say, it also it caused a lot of people to think it was a pretty heavy band, just like Meatloaf, Bad Out of Hell, right? It's the same sort of thing.
Yep, exactly.
Funny. All right, my next choice is I'm gonna go with 10cc, Bloody Tourist. They did a lot of album covers for 10cc. Some not so great. So they actually kind of experimented a lot. I thought they did a lot of different ones, but this one has that really cool vibe of the it has a Yes Tormato vibe, and I think it's the same year, right? 1978. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, really cool. And that is so Hipgnosis too, with the sort of graphic lines through things. You take a photograph and you add some graphics to it. And again, just like your choice there, Pete, Argus, we've got a gatefold that swings around right to the back. So here's a tour program where they use the same image, but a detail of it. And again, that went over to the back. And what do we got on the inside here? Yeah, I wouldn't say this is this probably wasn't designed by Hipgnosis, but there's, I guess, an ad for it or whatever. But yeah, I love when they use folded up crumpled paper and stuff and things floating through the sky and that. And they do like this blue. It's a really cool color that I guess it reminds us a little bit also of Lights Out, I suppose, and Obsession too, but definitely Tormato out of everything. So 10cc.
Yeah, they just would work with 10cc, and I think, again, their designs for them really fit well with the style of the music of that band. Just kind of quirky and different. And I mean, you look at that album cover, you're like, what the hell is this, right? I mean, still to this day, I don't know what the hell it is, but that's the great thing about it. So yeah, it's a good choice. All right, my next one, and this one is really cool because you get, and I'll show both the images on the front of the cover and the back, and I love the design of both. So it's Renaissance Turn of the Cards. So here you've got, fairly interesting logo and title up top. And then you got the background, which I'm assuming is somewhere in England, I guess. It kind of looks like it's got these sort of castles. It's kind of medieval looking, sort of. And then you got the water underneath, and then you got this hand holding the 4 tarot cards. Or it's five tarot cards, sorry, which really has nothing to do, the band, this doesn't, really fit well with their style of music or anything, which is really elegant, symphonic, art rock, so to speak. But the artwork is definitely really, really cool on here. Each card, you look at each card, each one's telling a different story. And then on the back, you get in black and white, the same shot, but basically with the band members appearing on the cards.
Yeah.
In black and white. So, bright color, black and white. Right. Really cool album. And as a matter of fact, this, in my opinion, is their crowning achievement as well. So
yeah,
pretty cool one.
That's a great album cover, but doesn't look like a Hipgnosis cover, which is interesting, right?
Yeah, not really.
Like
not really.
By another design house, right?
Yep.
So, all right. Well, we'll go back to Led Zeppelin for In Through the Outdoor. And the story behind this one, so there's the front cover of one of them. There are 6 different ones. And this is also one where I made up one of my fake ads for. So there's my pencil crayon on black ink using an old magician's thing. And people really like this one on Facebook. They said, that should have been the album cover. It would have been, and it brings a spooky vibe to it, right? But they weren't going for spooky. They were going for New Orleans. Jimmy thought this album was quite bluesy. New Orleans, as Poe explained to me, like it was a heavy place. It was where Robert found out that his son had died. It's a town of where anything can happen, sort of thing. And what they wanted to do was get that New Orleans vibe. So I guess it was Poe went to New Orleans and took a whole bunch of pictures, a bunch of New Orleans bars, and came back and put this whole set together in London. So they put this set together. They did 6 different versions of this, and they put it in the paper bag, which, they kind of fought over, was this too strange an idea, but it's absolutely iconic as well, right? So they have all these different scenes, and the idea was that, I think he said it was based on a book called the Saragossa Manuscript, something like that, where he said, it's a story in the perspective of different people. So the 6 different ones are supposed to be, it's the story in the perspective of this guy, and then her, and then maybe I guess the barman, and maybe her, whatever. I don't have all 6 of them, but so that's kind of cool. And the other thing is the slash through it, where you actually get a little bit of it's like a wet swipe through it, where you get a little bit of color showing through, was designed to be the clue towards the inner sleeve, where if you got water on the inner sleeve, you got colors. So there were colors impregnated in the inner sleeve, and you wouldn't know that unless you had an accident or placed a glass on it, as they said. But that was used to be the clue of that. And the other interesting thing he said is that because it was kind of pre-video times, they basically set this whole thing up, took the pictures they needed for it. They didn't film it for anything. They didn't make any videos. And then they just piled the whole thing up and threw it in the garbage bin. So they kind of like the idea, because Jimmy loved it. He said, that is so cool. I want to take that and put it in my house, was his quote, right? But they didn't, and they didn't film any moving footage, just the pictures. I haven't seen really any outtakes of it, but it all got thrown away. And in retrospect, they think it's kind of cool, because it's kind of like, the wiping away of the memory and New Orleans and all this sort of thing. And then, this is a wiping away or whatever. So it's something that is magical, that just kind of lasts for what it lasts for. And that's the end of it. So yeah, very, very many cool things to that album cover.
Oh yeah, big time. I remember buying that, off the rack back when it came out, and just, okay, you got the paper bag, and then you open it, you're looking at all this stuff. I'm like, wow, this is really bizarre, and what does it all mean? And a lot of thought was put into that, which I think most of these Zeppelin albums, and we're going to stay on Zeppelin here. So I love most of the Led Zeppelin album covers, because I think they do make you want to really look at them and try to figure out, what does this all mean? What does this have to do with the album? You've already talked about 2 of them today. How about this one?
Yeah.
Houses of the Holy.
I brought the vinyl out for that. There's the vinyl.
Yeah. I mean, the colors. Yep. There's the whole thing there. You know, the inside. I mean, this is just absolute genius. And again, what does it all mean? Like, who cares? I mean, look at the color scheme there. And what's really interesting, if anybody out there bought the Jimmy Page remasters from a few years ago, here it is in blue, which, you know, is kind of cool itself, but this is absolutely striking. And, you know, we're living in a day and age now where this type of thing is not really looked upon. You know, we've got the little kids, and they're all obviously naked and what have you, right? So something like this would never be released today. And I know that there are people who I got banned from Facebook for a couple of days because I posted this album cover last year or something like that. And you know, there's nothing wrong with this. This sold millions and millions of copies back in the day, and it's a piece of art. And it's just, and you know, the steps leading all the way up, and you've got the sun, you know, over the horizon there, just absolutely masterful. I think this is one of their crowning achievements, actually, as far as like album cover art. But again, you know, if this comes out, there's no logo on it, no nothing. Zeppelin were famous for that, and really cool. It's one of my favorites from them. I really love it a lot.
Yeah. And that's the Giant's Causeway, right? And I think that's in Ireland.
I believe so, yes.
Where they did that. Yeah. And, you know, I think that front, the kid at the very front there has been interviewed later in life, you know, about the whole experience and that. And what I remember from it is that everybody said it was freezing cold. Everybody was freezing. And it was just a nasty day to film all this sort of thing. Right. Obviously, it's really occult looking too, which is kind of
yeah,
cool.
oh, big time. Yeah, big time.
Yeah. All right. My next one is Michael Schenker Group. You know, what I like about this is, first of all, I like the fact that, you know, Michael's still on Chrysalis, and UFO is one of the big Hipgnosis bands. And so it's cool that Michael is continuing on, and Hipgnosis and Michael and Chrysalis are all still working together. But it's just a really cool, dramatic looking album cover. You know, the nurse over here is bringing a glass of something for him to drink, and it plays to Michael's image of being a little bit, you know, eccentric, shall we say, in the years leading up to this, and pretty much the years just after it as well. And then on the back, you've got this cool, very hypnosis-y, very rock video looking thing of these doctors, you know, watching, checking on the monitor of Michael playing his Flying V in that. But yeah, just a great looking album cover, good colors. You know, obviously this is ridiculous here, the Formerly of UFO. That's it kind of blows the whole symmetry of the whole thing. But looks really cool. It's got the logo on there as well, and just kind of a nice idea. And, you know, it's nice to see a solo album of a guy coming out of a band that isn't even really big, having, you know, obviously some artistic values thrown into it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that album cover. It's pretty cool. I remember buying that and thinking, you know, I was a huge fan of Michael before, you know, he left UFO, and then when that came out, that was a big deal for me. And just that, and you're right, that album cover just totally hit on his eccentric ways, right? It was a perfect representation of him. Good choice. All right, my next one is the third album from the band Flash, which was Peter Banks, formerly lead guitar player with Yes, Out of Our Hands. So let's get the full, again, kind of like one of those WTF moments, like what the hell is this? So obviously Out of Our Hands, you've got the hands seemingly popping up all over the place. You know, we're assuming these are bodies all kind of laying next to each other, legs and torsos and all that sort of thing. You've got the weird eye sitting up here at the top, and then you've got this, you know, lone figure here kind of in the middle of all this. Really kind of cool, really weird. And then on the inside, you get that.
Yeah, neat, cool.
Yeah, but just very different. Again, really artsy. And, you know, you see something like this and you're like, oh, that's got to be a prog rock album, right? Yep, true. So wow. I was kind of like that one. Pretty.
Yeah, cool. That's a really dramatic one. That could have been a Floyd one, right?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Cool, so,
yeah. Yep.
So it was probably presented to Floyd and then rejected. And
They
then,
rejected it.
hey,
So
Flash comes
like,
along.
I'll take it.
We only have $1,000. So what do you got? Yeah, just okay. Here, yeah. you got to go into the leftovers drawer for $1,000.
There you
right?
go. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, my next choice is Venus and Mars. Paul McCartney and Wings. Very, very Hypnosis. They love these little colored red and yellow balls. It's kind of a standard sort of thing. And even more standard is this kind of idea, right?
Yeah.
So you see this a lot with Hypnosis album covers, and you see the lyrics in this font sometimes on gatefolds and whatnot. So that I always thought that was a really cool one. And the way, the red and yellow balls are incorporated into the type, which is all completely custom type. And then of course, with this, you've got a very iconic Hypnosis inner sleeve.
Yep.
That's your inner cardboard sleeve for that. You've got right on the record. They've got, a standard boring capital thing, but they did put on a little red and yellow ball on that. And then you've got, let's see, what is this here? It came with a sticker. Came with this thing, this little strip sticker here of the kind of orbity stuff. And then you've got this big, pretty dull poster that comes with it of just the band being mobbed or whatever, black and white sort of thing. That's another Hypnosis thing. They do like the obscure photos sometimes as well, right? Where you can't really see what's going on. I better make sure I stay close so you can hear what's going on. But yeah, so all the bits and pieces, right? That reminds you a lot of Dark Side of the Moon, the way they got all that stuff put together and similar. Are they both 73? Is this a 73 album? I can't remember.
Or 74, one or the other. Yeah. Cause I think
75 actually. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's 75. But yeah, it really has that vibe of Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah, big time. It's a great album. Love that album. And speaking of Wings, let's go further into Wings.
Okay.
How about 1976 Wings Over America? So, of course, Wings did this tremendously long tour that year. You got the whole plane thing over America. And basically, this is the Wings jet, right? Also a song. What I really like about this is obviously this is supposed to represent the door of the airliner, right? But is it opening or closing? And obviously there's something going on behind that door, right? So open it up, boom, you got all this energy, all this greatness, or is it closing and shutting that off? We don't really know, but that's the thing that makes you think. Yeah. But I always, and this, it was a triple album set and this huge gatefold, on the inside, you got all the, great photographs of the band, the drawings of the band. I mean, this was a live album. This is what you want to see in a live album. I thought the whole presentation of this was just absolutely amazing. Yeah. And I think at the time, I bought this probably a couple of years after it came out, late 70s. And this was pretty expensive, for a 12-year-old kid or whatever, 11, 12-year-old kid to buy at that time. I think that was saving up like 2 months worth of allowances to be able to buy something like this, but completely worth it. Just a great overall package from the Hypnosis guys on here.
Cool. Wicked. All right. Okay. So my last one for the day is Black Sabbath, Never Say Die. Love this album cover. It's really got that kind of spooky vibe to it. As Aubrey explained, these are not even practical, proper masks of any sort. They had these made up. They're meant to be kind of a combination of aviation and kind of an S&M look to them. On the back, you've got a continuation of the whole thing, just the guy sitting back there. I always loved the little, the way they stylized the A's up here, the Never Say Die, the exclamation mark, which I usually leave off all the time. Everybody's always up, debating whether that should be there or not. But yeah, just a really cool album cover. Again, just like Technical Ecstasy, it's got that non-communicative vibe to it, that austere, like don't approach these people. And it's silence, quiet, which is in contrast, I suppose, with Black Sabbath. But the point is, it just gives that spookiness about Sabbath. And then the inner sleeve, as I was saying earlier, they've done the really exact same thing they did with Technical Ecstasy. Yeah. Is they give you insight into how real these machines are, and here's the schematics or diagrams of them, which I thought looked really cool and artistic as well. So yeah, always loved that album cover. Very cool.
I think everybody knows how I feel about that album, but I always love the album cover. That's one of those perfect examples. Love the album cover, don't like the music, but the album cover is great. I mean, it really is, really is. All right, so I guess we're at the last choice for the day. This is a kind of weird one. This is a pretty obscure band, I think, kind of like a early 70s country rock act. The band is called Cochise. This is their self-titled album debut, and basically it's a set of women's breasts.
Yeah.
It doesn't get more basic than that, right? But hey, come on, that's pretty cool. How they got away with this sort of thing back then, I have no idea. But yeah, and again, and of course, the name of this compilation is called Velvet Mountain. So here you got the mountains, so to speak, and it's actually a female. But I think in its simplicity, it's kind of cool. I love the sun, sun setting in the background. It takes balls to do something like this, right? But this was the early 70s. Like I said, you're not going to get away with this in 2021. But I think who doesn't like a pair of naked breasts, right? So
yeah, they had 2 or 3 albums, right? And the other album covers are pretty cool too, I believe, right?
Yeah, so this one is called Swallow Tales, which is really neat, I think. And then this one, which was their last one. Just
I wasn't picturing that one at all, but
yeah, so far,
yeah,
just a shot of the band. But pretty cool band, a very obscure band. And like I said, they're kind of like a country rock band, little bits of hard rock too. But if you could think of like maybe Poco, kind of like them, I guess, maybe like early Eagles, so to speak. Kind of an interesting band. I don't even know how I stumbled upon this or wound up getting this, but pretty cool. But yeah, Hypnosis.
And that cover relates to the Flash one, and then Flash even has another one with breasts on it, right?
Yes.
Like what is that called? Anyways, yeah. So they got the one that you wonder how did they get away with that, right? I think the hair's coming down or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, funny.
Yeah, there's some racy ones actually. There's some that kind of border on what should be acceptable or not.
But you see these little themes as you move along. Hypnosis did a bunch a certain way, and then they did a bunch a certain way in 73 to 75, and then they did a bunch a certain way in 77, 78, and then as the company breaks up, it gets a lot different, right? And then you get the guys coming back to them later in the 80s and 90s to Storm or whatever, and they come up with something. It's kind of Hugh Syme like at that point, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And we covered some of their really popular themes already on this episode. Using balls or round spheres, using these like kind of like blocks and like metallic things, and the human body as well. So and you see that throughout a lot of their album covers and stuff that we haven't even tackled in this part. But thankfully, there is a part 2 next week that we can move into some other ones. So thanks for watching, everybody. Again, part 2 next Friday of our look at Hypnosis album covers, some of the ones we really like. Martin, what's going on? Contrarians and the podcast and books and stock. What do you got?
Yeah, wow, the podcast. So History in 5 Songs with Martin Popoff. The last one was called Metallica versus Megadeth, period, in 1990. So it's all about looking at those bands from the vantage point where Rust in Peace had just come out. And I think I did a British metal one before that. Can't remember. A few other things. There's one every week. It goes up on Tuesdays. Contrarians, we just did a Bad Company. A Toto went up. A Rainbow Worst Album Rainbow Edition went up. That was difficult to cure. So Marco's keeping up a lot of stuff. There's a little kind of stable of guys there. And the books, martinpopoff.com. The Hawkwind just came in, and the reprints of the Max Webster and Flaming Telegraph. So yeah, actually a lot of stuff in stock right now. Still the Uriah Heep. Working on the Yes Thing, and there's going to be a second one to go with the first one of the Yes Thing as well.
Cool. So sounds good. Yep. Yeah, that whole Metallica versus Megadeth thing is pretty interesting to me. It's like,
I did a lot on the comparing the RIAA stuff too. So it's looking at the quality of the albums, and then the timings of when things are going gold and platinum, and was there a moment or more moments than one when Megadeth was the cooler band than Metallica?
Yeah, it depends on who you talk to, right? I mean, there's no doubt Metallica sold more albums, but there are a lot of people that will argue that Megadeth were the more artsy band and they were putting out cooler records.
Yep.
But it's hard. I mean, because that's the classic period of Metallica. Whereas I think when Metallica started to maybe creatively kind of slip a little bit, Megadeth were still doing pretty high quality stuff. So yeah, it's an interesting discussion. But there's always gonna be the two sides, and never will they meet, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool. All right. So everybody go check that out and visit us here on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. For Martin Popoff, I'm Pete Pardo. See you next week for part 2 of Hypnosis. Till then, have a good weekend, everybody.